You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Radio app, and thanks for being with us today. Our Godzilla Open America Tour continues. We're live in Lynchburg today at Liberty University. We got a full house right now at this beautiful campus. Tomorrow we'll be in the People's Republic of Charlottesville. Next week after the Memorial Day holiday, I'll be in the belly of the beast. We're going to New Jersey, talking to business owners. Their governor there, Murphy, has shut them down. They're claiming bankruptcy at an enormous rate. And we're going to be live with Congressman Jeff Van Drew on Wednesday in Cape May. We're going to go on from there. Right now we're at Liberty University. By the way, this segment is brought to you by Liberty University. Governor Ralph Northam's recent budget proposal included legislation banning Virginia students pursuing an online college education from receiving the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant, or VTAG. This legislation will impact all private colleges and universities in Virginia. Now, Liberty University has stepped in to help online students by creating the LUT TAG grant. That's the LUT TAG grant. Fall is coming, so you got to take advantage of this. Liberty is stepping up to help online students with the new LUT TAG grant to replace the money that Northam took away. It's you can pay less than $2,500 per semester if that's not enough. In addition to the LUT TAG grant, Liberty is offering $3,600 in transfer student scholarships. Now, here's what you have to do to learn more. You need to text LUT TAG, that's LUTAG, LUTAG, Liberty University TAG, it's easy, to 49595. That's text LUT TAG to 49595. LUT TAG to 49595. More information, go to liberty.edu, liberty.edu. Got a full house here. Congressman Morgan Griffith is on the line. Jerry Falwell Jr. is with us live. He's the president of Liberty University. Former Congressman, 5th District, Robert Hurt is with us, looking dapper today as always. Also with us is Scott Lamb, who is the Director of Communications for Liberty University. Dave Bratt is with us, former Congressman from the 7th District of Virginia, and now the Dean of the Liberty University Business School. I think I got that all in, guys. Thank you so much. Let's start with President Falwell. So, and I just want to get to the article in the Wall Street Journal here, and we're going to get everybody involved. The New York Times came in. You were slandered. You said everybody was going to get sick. There'd be body bags in downtown Lynchburg. Nobody got sick. Nobody died. Nothing happened.
Before we get to that, can I go back to what you said about LUT TAG?
Yes, sir.
All right, the governor. Let me point out how hypocritical what he's done is. Online students are students who are average age 37. They're adults. They have families, mortgages, jobs. They can't afford to uproot and go back to college to finish their degree or to get a master's. So for that reason, about 65% of them are low-income students. About 27% of ours are minorities. And there's a huge number of military students in our online program in Virginia. Of our 100,000 students, it's really not it's only a couple thousand that are in Virginia. But the governor basically said, okay, I don't like Liberty's politics, so I'm going to punish all these people who are struggling financially or serving our country, or first responders who are the main ones in our online program. And so we just decided, fine, we're gonna the money you're taking away from these people who deserve it the most and giving it to the more elite private college students who are attending on campus and are age 18 to 24 and kind of feel entitled, they come from wealthier families. That's fine. You want to do that? We're going to give the ones that really need it the money, but we're not going to just give them the money. We're going to buy their claim because it's a violation, we believe, of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution for the governor to treat one class of students different than another class just based on how they receive how they listen to their professor and how they do their work. So we're buying their claims, and it's going to be any student, not just ours, anybody in Virginia who wants to study online that the governor has cut out. We're going to give them the same amount the governor would have given them. Now, the collateral damage of that will be there's two or three, probably three schools in Virginia that have online programs. They're small schools, and it's the only thing that's keeping them in business. My intent is not to hurt those schools, but they will be the collateral damage, and the governor will be to blame for whatever happens to those schools financially. And it's a shame that he puts politics ahead of people, and but we're going to lay this disaster at his doorstep.
Congressman Hurt, what was, you've served in the legislature in Virginia, you've served in Congress. What was the motivation for Ralph Northam to do this?
I'm not sure. I think that
Liberty. It was liberty.
That we've seen some things in the news that indicate what the reason was, and that it was aimed directly at Liberty. Liberty's obviously the biggest player in Virginia, and one of the biggest players in the world in online education. I just think that when you think about how important virtual learning is now, online learning is now under these circumstances, the short-sightedness and the punitive nature of this policy as it relates to, and I'm at the Helm School of Government here at Liberty University, and I remember just sort of being knocked off my feet when I was talking to a professor who said, I don't often know much about students in the context of that you might get to know a student when you are teaching them residentially. He said, but I was blown away, he said, when I realized that one of the students that I had in my online class was sitting on an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. That tells a story, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's who's going to be hurt by this.
Right.
It is going to be the first responders and the people who serve in our armed services. That Liberty serves, that online education serves, and the idea that the governor would take this position, I think, is not good.
So do you think it was a strictly a punitive position against Liberty University to hurt this university because of the number of online students you guys have? I mean, are you comfortable?
Probably Liberty and Regent.
Liberty and Regent in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, and
so hurt the.
And I didn't finish my thought earlier about buying their claim. Buying the claim against the governor from those new online students means we sue the governor on their behalf. They don't have to, and so it's going to be fun.
So it's going to be a class action suit, basically. So you're buying their claim.
We're buying their claims. Giving them
so you give them the money, and I give up my claim, and I let you have the claim.
And then they don't have to worry about hiring a lawyer.
So you guys do the lawyer, but then you'll also get the damages.
That's right.
All right, let's get Congressman Morgan Griffith involved. Morgan, thanks for calling in and joining us here. Your former colleagues, Robert Hurt is here with us, Dave Pratt is here with us, Jerry Falwell Jr., Scott Lamb. Morgan, get right to tell us what's going on with Pelosi right now, this $3 trillion bill, your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm going to switch back to the TAG grant. I was a recipient of TAG grant, one of the first way back when. And yes, I went to one of those smaller schools. But I have to tell you, I know look, a lot of the students at Liberty are off on aircraft carriers and et cetera. But this is another example of Democrats claiming to be for the little guy and then doing things that hurt him. One of my former clients got out of prison, straightened out his life, had a son, wanted to be able to show to his son that you can achieve things, and so he went back online. He could never have gone to school otherwise. Mm-hmm. His lease on life was that he struggled and he fought and he worked hard and he finally got his bachelor's degree from Liberty by doing it online. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the aircraft carrier. It was the people that the Democrats are always claiming they're for that the governor's hurt. All right, sorry. Let's talk about Nancy Pelosi. I was outraged when I heard that this morning.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Morgan.
Anyway, that was just it's just upsetting that they do these policies and they don't think about who they're hurting. and oftentimes it's the little guy that they claim they're supposed to be for. All right. Nancy Pelosi, another case of, looking out for the rich guys, that $3 trillion package, one of the planks in there was that they were going to eliminate for 2 years the cap on SALT. Now, SALT is the state and local tax deduction on your federal income taxes. And in the 9th District of Virginia, we said when we passed that a couple of years back that you could claim up to $10,000 in the tax. So in the 9th District of Virginia that I represent, the highest taxed community is Salem, my hometown. And in order to and to have to pay any taxes at all under SALT on the federal tax side, you would have to have a house worth $861,000. That's in that plan that they claim they're supposed to be helping heroes. You know who it helps? It helps people who own flats in Manhattan in skyscrapers, the condos. It helps the millionaires in San Francisco and Los Angeles. It doesn't help the little guy. That was directly to help the fat cats, and they're trying to sell it as some way to help local government. Well, it may help those local governments that have overtaxed people, but it's really helping the fat cats because they get to take it off their federal deduction. And you know who gets to pay that? The rest of the taxpayers. So my district, which is 422nd in household income out of 435, my district would be paying so that people living in Manhattan, in skyscrapers, in $1 million, $2 million, $10 million condos don't have to pay taxes. That's just wrong, and it's another example. And that bill was filled with things like that. Now, look, like every bill, there are some things in there that if they had been standalone bills, I would have voted for and have voted for. But overall, it was a power grab by Nancy Pelosi. It's an attempt to make things better for them, and they go out and they tell everybody we're for the little guy, we're passing this they called it the Heroes Act. No, that's not what it's about at all. It's about more power for socialists, for Democrats, and for the fat cats who contribute millions of dollars to the Democrat Party.
Robert, how many constituents did you have, Robert Hurd, in the 5th district that own million dollar homes? Like
not many. Not
5?
Many. Yeah, not many.
It's ridiculous.
More in Charlottesville.
Yeah. So like even Liberty University, like how many students here come from families that own $1 million homes in Virginia? I mean, it's such a small degree. I don't know, 7th, Dave? I mean, there was there's some, but right?
Yeah, no, and it's not limited to just this issue. Nancy, we're talking China and big government and socialism and all this kind of thing, and people are missing right now. When you look at the billionaire class, they used to be associated with Republicans. Not anymore. It's big medicine, big healthcare, big government, big technology, big automobile, big airlines. All these guys are Democrats. All the Gateses and the foundations and the whatever are Democrats now. And so Trump is doing the right thing. He's looking out for the forgotten man and woman. That's his whole campaign. That's the premise. And our leadership in the House and Senate just has to do better at getting that message out. They're not doing their part of who is really representing the elites and who's really taking care of the small guy. And it's ours to win.
Yeah, Liberty probably has one of the highest percentages of students that receive Pell Grants of any college. And even with that fact being true, we still have our student loan default rate is much better than the national average. So these kids are working their way up. They're coming from, a lot of them from tough backgrounds, but they're paying their loans back, which means they're getting jobs.
Right.
And they're working hard. And it's a work ethic that we like to think that we instill in them when they're here. And employers, landlords love to get Liberty students, in their stable.
Let's talk about opening up in the fall. You've made a decision, right? You're going to have classes in the fall. The governor hasn't said what he's going to do with the public university system. How does that work, Jerry?
Well, we're going to obey whatever executive orders are out there. If he says no classes over a certain number, then that might make it impossible to go back to business as usual, because we have a lot of big classes and on campus. And so we'll just have to wait and see. We're blessed in that we don't financially pressured to make that decision quickly. A lot of them are rushing to see who can announce first that they'll be open.
Right.
Because if the students don't show up, they're out of business.
Right.
So we, because of our business model and our large online that we started back actually in 1976, unaccredited, 1985 accredited, and because of that, we have built a huge. 2018 we were number 16 in the country in unrestricted endowment. There's only a few schools ahead of us, and that was 2 years ago. We've grown a lot since then. So I don't know what the numbers are now. So we can weather the storm, and we, if fewer students come back because they feel afraid or scared, we're more than ready to. It won't hurt us a bit financially, but we have to wait and see what the governor's orders are, because if he says no classes under 100, then a lot of small schools can open as usual.
Right.
But we probably couldn't.
So in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis just went forward and said they're opening up public universities classes. They have some mitigation, but not a lot. They're also talking about starting spring football practice June 1st in Florida. In Iowa, yesterday, the governor there, if you guys don't know, opened up athletics for high school in the spring. Is this, again, what are these decisions that are made that the phony fake news media will not tell you what happened? So in Iowa, Jerry and everybody that's on, the governor there said, look, people playing athletics, seniors in high school in Iowa got really hurt because the season was canceled. So what she said is you can start practices June 1st, and June 15th, we're going to resume whatever your schedule was. So if you're playing baseball, you play baseball, soccer, field and track, whatever. Because she said there was a lot of kids in their seniors that got stripped from the opportunity to get D1, D2 scholarships and things. And so they're back open starting June 1st. Is that not going to put pressure on our governor and others to do the same thing?
Well, actually, it's the athletic conferences and the NCAA that decide when athletics can resume. It's not the schools.
So what do you think the NCAA will do?
I've been talking to them, and as of 2 weeks ago, they were still undecided. They told me they were definitely not going to do the March Madness tournament in June, move it to June or July. So there won't be another basketball tournament till 2021.
Right.
But as far as football, no decision yet. They're just watching and see what happens.
What do you think will happen, Jerry?
I think it's going to subside. I think the number of cases is going to subside through the summer, and I think it'll be to a level that even the ones who prefer to keep things shut down for other reasons, political reasons. Yes, I think even they will be shamed into saying, okay, we got to open up,
right,
and we got to play football.
What about high school and just school? Let's get to Morgan. What are the chances that Northam doesn't open public school in the fall? Is there a chance that he just puts it off, delays it again? And Morgan, what would the reaction be to people in the 9th district?
I think people would be very disturbed if schools didn't reopen. Obviously, all the school systems have been well trained now to do extra things and take extra precautions. But I think people would be very disturbed. Absent the cases just multiplying by the thousands and thousands in the 9th district, people expect their schools to open. We still have jurisdictions that have no cases. That doesn't mean that they won't get one or two or so forth, and there will be some hot spots, but nursing homes seem to be the real problem. And so if you want to say if you're attending a public school, you can't go into the nursing home, maybe that makes some sense. But look, we begged the governor to do a regional approach for weeks. He said he wasn't going to do it, and now he's not doing a regional approach, but he's letting local governments bow out of his current opening. I think he should probably do the same with the school systems. If Fairfax County's still having a huge problem and they want to close their school system in the fall, then let them do that. Let that be a local decision. But for, many of the jurisdictions in Southwest Virginia, they're going to want to open. The people want them to open. The parents want them to open. And I think it's something that's safe to do as long as everybody's taking precautions. You go forward. And, I think they can do it, but we'll see. It's been a little hard to figure out where the governor's going on something.
The chairman of the executive committee of Liberty's board called me yesterday from Florida. He said that in the 1960s, Ryan and Scott looked this up, 1967 or so, there was a extremely devastating strain of the flu that went around and killed 100,000 people, and absolutely nothing shut down. No governor shut anything down. They let it run.
I went to school. My mother was sick as a dog with it, and I can remember going to school, and I was going to swim team practice, and the only reason I remember that is I broke my tooth, and she's laying there sick with the flu, and I had to go get my tooth repaired, and nothing closed. I remember it well.
Robert?
Morgan, great to hear your voice. This is Robert.
Robert, it's always good to talk to you and Dave.
Absolutely. Listen, I had a question because I know you are somebody who knows history and knows the Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the Virginia Constitution. But a question that I've thought about is, what do you think about the expansive powers that this governor has exercised, and what do you think is what are the limits on this power, and at what point should the General Assembly, the legislature, the voice of the people, at what point should the people have a say in these draconian decisions that are often draconian decisions that are being made by the executive, regardless of who's in power? Have you thought about that?
Well, I will tell you, of course, each legislature is a new body, and they have to make a decision as to when they step in. They have the power to step in and check the governor if they think he's gone too far. It's also one of the reasons why we only have one-term governors in Virginia, is that we give the governor so much power, so many appointments, and so much power over everything that we don't want him to be there for more than 4 years, or her to be there for more than 4 years, because there's a tendency to do more and more as you go forward and maybe overstep the lines. Constitutionally, I think the governor overstepped the lines on churches. I think you have to treat churches in the case of a disaster like this. You have to treat them exactly as you treat other entities. When he allowed the ABC stores and the hardware stores to stay open, and the craft stores, as my wife always likes to point out, and they didn't have a restriction on the number of people that could be inside the store at any given moment, I think he violated the rights of all the churches. That doesn't mean they should have been in attendance. That was a decision for each church to make. But I don't think the governor has the right to say it's going to be a Class 1 misdemeanor.
And Morgan, I retweeted somebody the other day who said maybe churches should start meeting at Walmart.
Yeah.
Dave,
exactly.
we're gonna end here with
Yeah.
Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, Morgan, great to hear you. Folks out there listening, Morgan Griffith, one of the best constitutional and procedural experts on how Congress works up there, and it was just a pleasure to work with you, Morgan. And I just wanted to go off on the implications of the schooling decisions. After the 2008 financial crisis, they asked Greenspan to Bernanke, what's the biggest damage that's going to play out from this financial crisis? And the current financial crisis is much deeper than that one. And they said the effect on human capital, the effect on education, on the skills of the workers. And there's evidence out already. Sociology's got good evidence. But the folks that lose their jobs, displaced workers, and right now that's 35-40% you're verging on.
Right.
35%, 40% of workers displaced. They will have their wages 20% reduction for the next 20 years. 20 years out, 20% less wages on out through 2 decades. So education matters. It's huge. When politicians are making these decisions lightly, they are not thinking about the American people. They're not thinking about the implications of their actions. The pain from that economic decision will outweigh the pain of the virus by multiples. It's not even in the ballpark.
All right, we're going to get the bottom of the hour news. We're going to be right back. We're here live at Liberty University. Liberty University President Jerry Falwell, former Congressman 5th District Robert Hurt, former Congressman 7th District, and now Dean of the Business School at Liberty, Dave Brett with us, Scott Lamb, and Morgan, thanks for being with us. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back. Stay with us live at Liberty University. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Radio app. Thanks for being with us. Our Open America Tour continuing. Today we're at Liberty University in Lynchburg at a full house here round table. Tomorrow we'll be in the People's Republic of Charlottesville. Pete Snyder will be with us. Open 30-Day Fund, his headquarters. Next week we're going to the Belly of Beast. We'll go to New Jersey starting in Cape May. Jeff Van Drew will be with us live as we go up the coast of New Jersey, which their governor says he's going to keep shut down until, I don't know, everybody goes out of business. He can assassinate every small business owner in New Jersey, and then I guess he'll get 90% of the vote or whatever. But we're going to be in New Jersey. Go to our Facebook, join our Facebook group, Open America. We're live here at Liberty University. Great roundtable. Liberty University President Jerry Falwell Jr. with us, former congressman and now teaching at the School of...
Dean of the Helms School of Government.
Dean of the Helms School of Government, former Congressman Robert Hurt, former Congressman Dave Brett, 7th District Dean of the Business School, also Scott Lamb with us, and Ryan. We got it, Ryan. Thank you for, I can't figure your last name out, but I will. Helfenbein is with us. But look, Dave, you're on the hook.
Yep.
I come last night, and by the way, your staff, Christian and Ryan, fantastic, got me all set everything up and drove around the campus, came up to this beautiful tower, and so I get back to the hotel there on campus. I call my family. I said, boy, this school is so beautiful. You got to be here. All you've seen is a baseball stadium. And I got my son with my wife on the speaker, and my son, who does listen to my show, says, well, Dave Bratt promised you that when I wanted to go that Dave Bratt, would give us a personal tour. Of course, I can't meet the baseball coach. I'm only going to be a sophomore, but be sure that Dave is still that Congressman Dave Bratt can do that because he said that. So I just want to tell you,
absolutely,
my son is holding you accountable.
That's the way we roll at Liberty.
Holding you accountable for that.
Everybody out there, you bring your young ones out here and visit the beautiful 80,000 square foot brand new business school before you go to the government school and meet Dean Hurt.
So I have to get back to this Wall Street Journal article, Jerry, and I know you've been making the rounds in the media, but again, fake news not picking it up. I mean, when you kept the dorms open or allowed them to be open, I mean, when the New York Times was here, I mean, if you look at articles that were written, it said that, you were going to cause death and destruction in Central Virginia, and there'd be body bags in downtown Lynchburg, and I mean, not one of these people have apologized for the fact that 3 months later, I think one person got sick, and that's it, out of 10,000.
Well, to Bill McGurn's credit, he's a Wall Street Journal reporter. He called out of the blue last week, and he said, that what you just said is that they caused all this concern and told all these lies about cases at Liberty, and so he said, but then when everybody left and there were no cases, they didn't correct themselves, and so he took it on himself to write that piece. We did an interview last Thursday, and then the press started picking it up from there, but mainly conservative press. The mainstream press still hasn't. And 750 news outlets picked up the original false New York Times story. But what was so insidious about that story is they came on campus at the week after spring break. We had no trespassing signs like we still do at every entrance. And unless you're here on official school business, and just they came from New York, Washington, Richmond, wherever, and they from hotspots, and in complete disregard for our students' health, they stayed on campus. We don't know how many days. They published a lot of pictures that they took while they were here, but then they never called us while they were here. They never talked to us. They talked to a doctor across town who referred them to our on-campus clinic doctor who knew the actual facts, They didn't talk to her. And so all they did was talk to a doctor whose practice had seen some kids with some upper respiratory allergies and colds and things. And so, long and the short of it is they were playing a game. They called us on Sunday after they left at noon, and they published the story at 3 o'clock that afternoon. And so, all of our people were scattered around on Sunday afternoon, and it was intentionally deceptive. And I've got the best law firm I could find in Manhattan, and it took me an hour to read the complaint yesterday against the New York Times, and it's powerful, and it goes into a lot of things they do besides what they did here at Liberty, just unethical, dishonest practices, and it could be a game changer.
Well, I mean, they came here to do a narrative, and so the evidence, when you do fake news, the evidence, the facts, the reporting is subservient to the narrative, Dave, and you've experienced this, subservient to the narrative that they want. So basically the way the fake news is done, me being in the business, is you find and only seek out those people that will buttress your narrative. Anybody that might dispute your narrative, you avoid, regardless of the fact that you should talk to them and get evidence. So they don't come here to report on something. They come to find a way to forward a false narrative through false means in order to get a result. That's exactly what you saw at Liberty, Jerry, and you called them out. But look, Dave in the 7th District experienced that 7 days a week for the whole time that you were in there.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I had 3 ethical plagiarism charges on my PhD a month before the election, from New York Times, Washington Post, all the likely suspects, all the fashion magazines coming in, and then I had the head of Harvard rebut it. I'm all clean, it's all good, and then you never get the retraction. And President Falwell is being humble, but we did the right thing for our kids. We got kids who were better off health-wise staying here than going to a hot spot up in Jersey or New York with their grandparents. International kids who are here, every other university.
Right.
And they just track us because our commitment to the Judeo-Christian tradition and the rule of law and free markets and pro-business, and that sets us apart.
Right.
But we had a campus built for 16,000. Only 1,200 were here.
Right.
For the last 6 or 7 weeks of the semester. And they were, a lot of them didn't have high-speed internet at home, and we had gone to completely an online format. And so they couldn't go home and do their studies because they didn't have the proper internet, some of them. Like Dave said, a lot of them were international, had elderly relatives at home. So it was the right thing to do. We did it in a way. The governor did two surprise inspections and found everything was done according to, perfectly. They gave us a glowing report. And so, we did what we thought was right, and, the result was a good result. So just like in Florida and Texas, those governors did the right thing. They protected the population that was at risk. And look what happened there compared to New York. We did file criminal warrants against the against the reporters who trespassed, and the local Commonwealth's attorney did an excellent job of She spoke with me first, and we decided that the best thing to do, since it was a first offense, and even if they were convicted, they'd probably appeal, and it would drag out. We decided the best thing to do was to get them to admit wrongdoing and to apologize. And she did a wonderful job of getting all that done. And so that showed our parents that we took it seriously, that we didn't want anybody on campus bringing this virus to our students.
Well, the other thing that they never mentioned is there were other campuses in America that were also open that did the same thing, right? University College of Los Angeles, I think, USC. There were several others.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Arizona State opened, and they had a lot more students on campus than we did, and they had 15 cases.
Right. So nobody went and did an expose on them, right? They just came here to Lynchburg to target Jerry Falwell and to target the university because, as you say, it has Judeo-Christian values, and that seems to be counter to the narrative of what these people want.
And just to be clear, I think we have 0 live cases on campus right now.
No, the whole semester we had 0. We had not one single staff, faculty, or student, not faculty or staff that had offices on campus or students who lived in the dorms, not one tested positive. And the only one that I know of was an off-campus online student who had not been on campus anyway. So, there goes their narrative.
After the New York Times piece.
Scott Lamb, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. After the New York Times piece came out, some of our departments actually had other universities call. Those other universities had 10, 15, 20 cases, active cases, 6 students, and they were calling us under the assumption that the New York Times had spoken, truth. And so they were calling and they said, hey, what are you guys doing in order to take care of the sick kids? And, some of our Sodexo, those kinds of employees said, well, we don't actually have any sick kids. We don't even actually have any kids that have it. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? Because the New York Times clearly were saying that, we had all these cases. Yeah. And so other universities that still had 10% or 15% of their student body in the dorms. And with 20, 30, 40 cases, we're at a loss of what to do, how to handle that situation. And here we were with no cases.
Zero.
Yeah, and yet hundreds of journalists calling. I was on the front line of a lot of that, and they calling with the assumption. So, how many students are sick? How many students are dying? What are you doing? Are you guys burdening the local hospital system? And we're like, we're not burdening anybody. There wasn't anything. And yet the retraction, if there is a retraction, it's just a quiet little mea culpa. Well, maybe we.
That's fake news. I mean, when the president talks about fake news, look, Dave knows this, and Rob to some extent. I'm a White House correspondent. Now what they've done, you guys probably don't know this, is the White House Correspondents Association, which is a totally corrupt organization, which kicked me out of it because I'm a Trump delegate, so they kicked me out, whatever. But I still have a hard pass. Well, the way they locked it down is when COVID-19 came, they took control of who goes in there, so they only allowed those that have assigned seats, and of course they control the assigned seats. So people like me that came in every day and would ask a legitimate question, right, we get kicked out and they take complete control of it. I mean, the thing is so corrupt. Even the Ralph Northam press conferences are, because of COVID-19, I can't walk in. They're controlled by the Virginia Press Association that then picks the people who can participate in the press conference. So I can't get on to ask him a legitimate question. You had the other day a member of the Associated Press, get this, before he asked a question said, Governor, this question, you might take this as a little confrontational, so I apologize in advance, and then asked a question. But what? Dave, are you kidding me? Your job is to ask tough questions. It's like, let me apologize in advance for not asking if you're comfortable and would you like a cold soft drink or a hot cup of coffee or whatever they ask.
Yeah, well, and President Falwell set up the Falkirk Center here dedicated to faith and freedom to explore some of this, right? You don't have a free country when you don't have a free press. As our founders, right, Jefferson, et cetera, wanted a rational system of government, rational inquiry. And when half the conversation's cut off, Ryan Helfenbein and Scott Lamb are setting up and bringing in world experts, and we're going to start documenting some of this press abuse. And President Falwell's taking on the New York Times, and so
all
it's
you
coming.
have to do is look at Northam's press conferences. For instance, when he said he's going to open up 50% of the beach. Nobody asked him what's that science and data, like what science is that?
No.
What basis is that? When he said you can go to the beach but you can't have an umbrella. Okay, what is that based on? So if you have an umbrella on the beach, does that spread the disease? I thought it protected you from sun cancer. Yeah. Nobody asked him that question. He said you can go on the beach but you can't play music. Okay, is there science and data that says if I play the Grateful Dead, which is my favorite band, if I play the Dead, that I'm going to get sick? I mean, what? Nobody asked him a single question about any of the science and data because they don't want to challenge him.
Well,
how is that a free press?
No, that's right. And one of the biggest questions, I heard a Swedish scientist expert. He said, all the rest of you countries are criticizing us right now. I'd like to know what's your plan for opening schools. When are you going to open them? What does the best science say on it? You won't hear a peep. Right now, the press is hiding under this test regimen. And if you do any research on that, you do the science and the evidence and the data, both tests have problems. If you ask questions there, and then you say to the press, say we do the testing, then what? What happens? And there's no answer.
There's no answer.
There comes a day when people are going to have to face going out into public. No one wants to make that statement out in the public sphere, and the politicians are hiding under the rocks.
Robert Hurt just gave me Liberty University hand sanitizer. So let's say I go today and I test negative, Robert, and I do my hand sanitizer. Thank you, by the way, it's neat. And let's say I do that, and then I got to go to Charlottesville. And so I stop at the BP station to pump gas, right? I pump gas, and somebody that just pumped gas is positive, and now I get it on my hand, and I'm positive. But I just got a test. I'm negative, but now I'm positive. Do I test every day? Do I test every hour? Do I test 3 times a day? Do I test in perpetuity? I mean, what do tests mean? I mean, when you think about it in those terms, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, I think that what history is going to teach us is that at the end of the day, common sense, people who have respect for themselves and for each other and the way they conduct their day-to-day lives in terms of just normal hygiene.
Right.
I think that's the way out of this, it seems to me. And having overbearing government action that tells us that we're too stupid to be able to take care of ourselves, I think is also what history is going to reveal, and we've never been here before, but I think that is what history is going to show.
Yeah, and on the testing, the science on the testing is that the tests are only 30% accurate. You've never heard that, right? So then you say, okay, if the tests are 30% accurate, and then you get your conclusion, what action are you going to take on that basis? And so the press is out playing a game. They're always one step ahead with the clever, well, we got to do testing. President Trump's failing on the testing. No, he's not. They know, right, if they do the testing, what the implications are. And it's not the solution. It might help you better target folks in high-risk zones, but it doesn't get rid of the virus. That's the issue, right? No one's got an answer to that one.
I'll just open it with a general question. Is there going to be a political reckoning of this?
I think people... I see what happened in it was some city, Stanton, Virginia. That tell me what happened. It went for
Scott sent the story.
Yeah, we talked about that last
Go ahead,
hour.
Scott. Scott Lamp.
Apparently, the whole city council flipped from Democrat. They've been Democrat for a generation or longer, and in the recent election, the whole city council went red. And the two issues when polled were guns and the COVID lockdown. Folks need to remember that before the mid-March lockdown, right before that, Virginian conservative patriots were up in arms against our governor.
Right.
We had the January gun rally, thousands upon thousands of people. Of course, you couldn't do that now because we can't get out of our homes to go rallies. So I think it's very convenient for Governor Northam that we can't rally and bring the pitchforks and state our grievances against them. I know our own President Jerry Falwell had taken leadership with a movement called Vexit, to just
Vexit.
To actually just ask the question. I mean, if Northam really just doesn't care about the rest of Virginia, then what are we? What are we going to do about this? And all of a sudden, that entire conversation was completely shut down because we have to all stay in our homes.
Vexit.
Well, once we get out of our homes, people are going to start remembering. Now, what were we talking about back in February? Oh yeah, our governor and all of his atrocious dictatorships.
Well, those of us that live in Hampton Roads were very upset about Vexit because you were going to leave us with Northam. So it was like, well, that's not fair. So I had Jim Justice, the governor of West Virginia, on my show about a month ago before this started with Vexit, and he said, yeah, we'd love to have you. We could just actually annex everybody and just have a fight over it.
Virginia, the interesting thing is that if counties in Virginia decide to put it on the ballot this fall, they can leave Virginia, go to West Virginia without Richmond's approval.
They can?
And without Washington's approval.
Really?
And that's the only state in the country where that's true because of the way West Virginia's constitution was set up. So we're going ahead with we're texting. We've got the names of every registered voter in Virginia. We're texting them all. If you want, sign this petition if you want it on the ballot this fall and in your county, and you go to your county, select it, your city, whatever. And who knows? We'll see. But we're not backing off. In fact, it might be easier to do it now while everybody's sitting home.
You need to get my show involved in that,
I would
because
love to.
even though I'm in Chesapeake, so I'm carved out of it.
I don't know that you carved out of it. It could go south.
Let's get out.
Up the river.
We don't want to go to North Carolina.
The new state could go south of Richmond and out to the coast. You know?
Go to West Virginia. All right. When we get back, lots more to talk about. Opening the economy, how that works. What will the demand curve look like? Dave, I want to get you guys involved in that. And then also, there's a couple of political races we're covering. One is Denver-Riggleman. I want to talk about that. That's happening pretty soon. And then, Dave, one of the reasons that you got beat is because the DNC and the Democrats bust everybody in, right? Remember that? Spanberger, they had charter buses of all these people coming in. They do a great get out the vote effort.
Yep,
they have
good.
people from Dallas coming. Remember that in the 7th district? Guess what? They couldn't get their army out in Los Angeles.
That's I was going to say. We got
They
a good
couldn't get their army out, Dave. I want to talk about that because their army that they've assembled stayed home to hide behind their masks.
Good.
So what does that mean? What implications are that? All when we get back on the John Fredericks Radio Network, we're live at beautiful Liberty University in Lynchburg, where nobody's sick here. John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back with our all-star panel. Also Facebook Live. Stay with us.
WJFN, Goochland, Richmond, 100.5 FM.
Real news, real talk.